Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. After the SNP promotes its worst ever health secretary to First Minister, it looks to replace him with someone who is potentially even worse. Michael Matheson, a man over-promoted into the role, a man who knows nothing about what he's doing, has been tasked with trying to improve the NHS in Scotland. It's a thankless task, it's an impossible task, given that the money required is always spent on independence pushes rather than actually spent on doctors, nurses and medications. That would be too easy. And of course, now that we're moving into the winter period, and things are going to get nasty and things are going to get busy and things are going to get a whole lot worse, and we covered that yesterday, it appears that this politician, I won't say that he's a useless politician, there's always bound to be some use for him. I'm sure there's a store somewhere that needs a floor mopped. But as a minister, he's completely useless, of course. But he's announced his planning, if that's the word, for the winter period. And of course, everyone's saying it's far too little, it's far too late, and it's just not up to scratch. And so it's going to be pretty dire in the Scottish National Health Service over the next few months. So we'll take a look at this and see why Matheson is yet another failure at health. Here goes. So Michael Matheson appears to have learned nothing with the NHS winter plan amid warning of extremely challenging time. It's likely to be the worst ever on record. You're already, as you go, before you come into it really, it's only just starting now, but already you've got record waiting lists, you've got massive staffing problems, you've got funding problems, budget problems, you've got hospitals that are falling into disrepair because maintenance isn't being done, and you have such an amazingly bad set of politicians that know the problem is there and don't want to deal with them. So how do you think this is going to work out? It's not going to be good, is it? Anyway, the scathing comments come from the Scottish Conservatives, who are warning the SNP minister that planning for the colder months is once again too little, too late. And I've got to say, for the health minister, he looks remarkably unwell, doesn't he? Honestly, he looks like someone who's just come out of a cancer ward. Why can't they have people who look healthy? Anyway, Michael Matheson, MSP, has been told his NH plan for the winter months is too little, too late. We wouldn't expect it to be anything else. This is the SNP. The Health Secretary announced, it's Health Secretary but not Healthy Secretary, announced that an extra 50 million of funding is being given to Scottish Ambulance Service to boost staffing ahead of what he fears will be an extremely challenging winter for the NHS. Where's this coming from? Where did this magic 50 million appear from? They can't afford anything. Where do they pull the 50 million from? Or is it like typical vapour? It's the vapour of the SNP. We'll announce it. Sod all will happen. But it sounds good when we announce it. I won't believe it. Does anyone believe it? Of course we don't believe it. Like rubbish, isn't it? Anyway, this follows unchanging A&E stats and fears this winter could top deaths that have only today been recorded as a 30-year high. It was actually yesterday. This is a piece I meant to do yesterday. I said there was a lot to do. I couldn't get through everything. But yeah, this came out on the same day. But yeah, a 30-year high. Actually, 33 years high. It was 1990 was the last time it was this bad. I've got to say, there are people today who've possibly become grandparents since it was last this bad, and half that time will have been over half that time will have been under the SNP, so it's not surprising, is it? Anyway, Mr Matheson said the cash would help the service recruit a further 317 frontline staff, with 18 new clinicians also to be taken on for a call centre hub where they can help to triage patients. He also pledged up to 12 million that would be spent to expand the hospital at home service, which allows people to be treated at home instead of in busy hospitals, what we used to call district nursing, that kind of thing. My mother did that for quite some time. She was out district nursing and things. You know, she was a nurse. My mother was a nurse for 100 years, I think. Knew Florence Nightingale. But when she finally retired, and you know, she was missed. Put it that way. Anyway, Mr Matheson said work on this had begun in early spring, earlier than ever before. Yeah, work beginning. Doesn't matter when work begins. It's when did you finish it? When did you authorise it? When did you get funding? Because Nobody knows. This is the mystery of the SNP. They sit there and time and again, they just announce it. We're going to put £300 million there. We're going to do £1 million there. None of it happens because they haven't got any money. It's all BS and horseshit, isn't it? Anyway, excuse me. Scottish Conservative, I can't say the word, what's wrong with me? Scottish Conservative Shadow Health Secretary Dr Sandesh Gillane, MSP, said it was imperative that the SNP got it right this year, but all the signs are pointing to another devastating winter. Ever since the SNP have come into power, it's been devastating winter after devastating winter. You have to wonder how many people have died as a result of SNP policy. I bet it's lots. And that's outside of COVID. We're not even talking about the COVID death. We're just talking about general day-to-day killing people with ineptitude. Anyway, Dr Gillane continued. On the same day it was revealed, Scotland suffered its highest number of deaths in winter for over 30 years. That would be last winter, December to March. Sadly, the SNP's planning for this year is once again too little too late. Even the SNP chair of Holyrood's Health Committee, Claire Hockey, has warned Michael Matheson that this is the case. Yet this year's winter plans was delivered to Parliament later than it was last year. So it doesn't matter when he starts it, it's when it finishes. What I said at the beginning. With each passing week, A&E waiting times have been utterly woeful on the SNP's watch, with more and more patients suffering intolerable delays, often in pain, often very worried. I mean, so it's causing a lot of emotional and mental anguish because you don't know if you're going to be seen, when you're going to be seen, or if by the time you're seen it's too late. Undoubtedly, delays are causing deaths, especially in cancer. The waiting time of cancer is shameful in the extreme, and that is undoubtedly killing people who could have been saved. By the time they get sort of treatment started, they're at stage 4 and it's a death sentence for them. But that's the SNP. But they do have nice, shiny brochures. No doctors, but they've got a shiny brochure. Anyway, given the horrendous scenes we saw on the front line last year, it was imperative that the SNP got it right this year. What do we think, people? Do we think they're going to get it right? Or do we think it's going to be much more of the same? Matheson really needs to retire, and go away and do something more in keeping with his abilities. A little bit of basic bookkeeping, perhaps, or, stacking shelves. Because as a health secretary, he is an overwhelming failure. And it is a race now between Humza Yousaf and Michael Matheson to see who is the worst health minister. Currently, I think Humza Yousaf has it by a nose, but Matheson is closing up fast as they're approaching the finish line, and it is going to be an absolute disaster, and it's going to be record. Look, I'm going to make the prediction here that when we're reporting on this next year and the figures are announced, it will be a record year again. Not a good record, the wrong record. Worst ever again. You just know it because they just won't do their job. It's wrong. It's criminal. It's got to be criminal what they're doing. Anyway, the Health Secretary told MSPs at Holyrood, "We're in no doubt this winter will be extremely challenging for our health and social care system." Then put some bloody money in it and stop wasting it on independence. He said the winter plan specifically seeks to address the specific operational pressures experienced across the health and social care system over winter, with actions already underway to improve services. The best way to improve services is to call a general election, or call a Holyrood election as well, at the same time as the general election, and let the people of Scotland choose someone better. Someone who's not going to waste millions upon millions of pounds on foreign embassies, on spin doctors, on the absolute crapola of independence, which can never happen, and actually put the money where it needed to be. Health, social care, and education. Get those 3 things done first. Then look at everything else. But those 3 are the big 3. And it's what people want the money spent on. They don't want foreign embassies. They don't want spin doctors. And they certainly don't want glossy brochures telling them of the SNP's utopian plans for their future in a single party Marxist state. Oh, I'm coming up. Now, I have friends and family all over Scotland. There's people in Greenock, there's people in Inverness, I know people from Dundee. So we are talking a big spread an absolute big spread of the whole of the country. Not one of them can tell me that their local NHS is good. Not one. And why? It's because you have a whole series of psychopaths or inept morons running it. You have Freeman, you have Yousaf, you have Matheson. Name one Scottish health minister ever that's ever done anything other than make things worse. Because they don't ever put anyone in, first of all, who knows what they're doing, and secondly, with a budget sufficient to actually achieve anything. Meanwhile, you can spend £8 million a month on spin doctors. Unbelievable, isn't it? Well, it's not unbelievable, it's the SNP. It's all far too believable, unfortunately. Does get me angry, though. Really does get me angry. People deserve better. Screw money. Money's important, don't get me wrong. Money's important, monetary policy is important, the economy's important, I get it. But when it comes to people, spend the money on the people. Don't waste it away on things like that, on the embassies and bullshit like that. Let's get the queues down. Let's get the waiting list down. Let's get people seen within 4 hours. It's not hard. It's not hard if you stop wasting money on BS that people don't want. Here endeth the lesson. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope that my passion on this one has earned me a subscription, but I bloody do mean it. I hate these things that they do. It kills people. I can't stand it. Anyway, as I say, do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, definitely share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, stay out of hospital, and I will talk to you later.